great.
Yeah. It's always rough when you have to stick around because you're live
And
to top
we're back
8.
in the booth, but we do have a backup coming down the pipeline shortly.
Yes.
It's Ryan Frainer, a
Okay.
guy I know, a friend of mine, playing Grixis Delver.
Okay.
He's a friend of Josh Taylor, Ted Felicetti, Gerard Fabiano.
Okay, so
that
Gerard's
crew,
squad. Yeah.
Like the Jersey PA crew.
Yeah, okay. And we have some deck lists coming up.
That's Ryan. And his opponent is Bernie Parisi,
Okay.
who is playing, it looks like, Bug No Delvers? Okay, yep. I see. Oh, no
There's four
Delvers,
Delvers.
sorry.
There's Bug
It's
Delver,
just
yeah.
written very poorly. It's just Bug Delver, the old Team America deck.
Yeah.
The 1 Tombstalker,
Yeah.
1 Leovold, 2 So this is like what they call 27 trophies Sultai. There's this guy on Magic Online, I think his name is Malamujo.
Okay.
And he like 5-0'd like 30 leagues.
Jeez.
Leading up to GP Louisville with basically this deck.
That's nonsense.
Except the 4th hymn is a Leovold. And
Okay.
he had 4 hymns, and this guy has 3 hymns and a Leovold.
Bernie's a local player. Usually see him here at Top Deck or something like that. He's a super solid guy. Tight play.
Sure.
We like to give him nonsense every once in a while because sometimes he has random one-ofs. He's been known to try Wasteland in his Miracles deck.
There's another Bernie local to this area, I think to the Philly area,
Yeah.
who's a very good Miracles player.
Yes.
Bernard Liberati, I believe is his name. And I first thought that this was the same person, and I'm like,
Yeah,
no,
and
wait,
you're
that's
like,
not
there's
the same
no way
person.
he switched off.
There's minimal people named Bernie, and that guy always plays Miracles.
Yeah. So it looks like we have a pretty reasonable 7 from the Grixis Delver player. Bernie's keeping his cards relatively close to his chest. Can only really see the first card. Oh,
Ryan on the mole, but Bernie following him. So I
Yeah.
think Bernie won game 1, so Ryan is on the play.
Yeah, it looks like we're going to 6, not 5. So what do you think that the 6s need to look like? You're just keeping pretty much anything that's reasonable in the Delver mirror?
Deathrite Shaman.
Okay.
It's so important in these mirrors. It's far and away the most important card in the early game because it frees up your mana to cantrip and to smooth out your draws while your opponent is struggling to keep pace with your threats. Like, the fact that you can double spell, like, if you have Deathrite on the play and they have, like, they're like Ponder and you're just like, untap, waste you, play Tarmogoyf, it's just ridiculous. The extent to which you're ahead is just, like, almost laughable at that point. But, like, and then, like, secondary, like, post-board, things like Strix are nice, which it does not appear that Bernie has any copies of.
Yeah.
But Ryan, I do believe,
Ryan has
a
2
copy.
out of the board.
Yeah, so Ryan will definitely be boarding those in.
Yes.
Bernie has a Dark Blast, which I'm almost positive he boarded in. He also has a Jace the Mind Sculptor in his board, which I don't like on the draw.
Yeah, no, I don't think I'm
As a
boarding
Fatal
Jason.
Push, I do like the Fatal Push.
So we see Ryan keep his 6, and it looks like Bernie also kept his 6. They both scried bottom.
I think Bernie also has a Sideboard Dismember, which, while he has horrible penmanship, is great for the matchup because it kills Garmag Angler.
Yes.
Ryan's deck deviates from the traditional Grixis Delver deck, and then it has...
are we seeing a Stifle here? Yes, so there's 3 Stifles in Ryan's list, and he's fetching in response to the fetch. Telltale sign of
Okay,
I
so
have
Ryan
a
is
thing.
on the play, right? He went land go, and Bernie went fetch, and he stifled him?
Yes. Well, he's likely about to. Otherwise, he's just really excited to brainstorm right now.
he's just selling it super hard.
Yeah. Okay, yeah, he does in fact
he's
have the
stifling
Stifle,
him.
yeah.
Of course.
So that's actually a fantastic opener, because we see that there's also a Daze in that hand, so he just had the turn 1 play locked up no matter what. He doesn't have
Ryan
a follow-up
still has
land, though.
is up a card in a way, and then
Yeah.
he has a land. He was able to trade a reactive spell for a land, which is great because this frees up his turn to cast Ponder.
Yes, and if he hits another island, he actually has double Daze up, or if it's a red source. Like, his hand's quite reactive, but he has a ton of things he can do. Do you Brainstorm or do you Ponder here?
I would Ponder here. Save my Brainstorm for later.
Yeah, so I'm...
But Ryan has the Ponder to stop from locking himself, which is likely why he chose to Brainstorm.
Yeah.
But now he's locked, and if he gets Wastelanded, he could be in deep trouble.
Yeah, I'm a bit of a greed monster myself, so I pretty much always lead on the Brainstorm, just assuming I'll hit a fetch. If I have the Ponder to back up, but I mean, I am a super greedy player, so I think
he needs to hit a land here, right? So Ponder sees more cards than Brainstorm.
Because you get the 4th one?
Yeah.
Okay.
So in like a purely statistical basis, like if you really don't want to miss your land drop, you really want to cast Ponder.
Okay.
And now, like, Bernie doesn't even have a land.
Oh,
so
jeez, that stifle is just backbreaking then.
Yeah, that's good for Ryan. But like in this case, like him passing was just like, oh no, and then you just know to fire off Wasteland if you have it. So
and he's just not even going to try to hit his land. He's just going to hope that his top cards are
he's
better
just
than his
gonna
opponent's.
Push the envelope now that he knows that he missed the land drop. So
and I
understand that.
Yeah. He is also down a game, and I usually live a little bit more dangerously when I'm down a game, even though it's incorrect.
Well, he knows the Delver's going to flip too, so he's immediately dodged Dark Blast.
Because this is the other Brainstorm card?
Yeah, it's the second card that he hid, which I think
sense.
is another Brainstorm. Not sure, though.
Okay, so Bernie had to discard
Oh, no,
to
it was
hand
one of the
size.
red cards. It was Pyroblast. Sure.
Bernie there had to discard to him to Turok to hand size, and then we resolved the Delver trigger.
And now we'll probably see Ryan Ponder try to find that land drop.
Yep. And then if he finds a red source, this is almost over.
He's just going to cast Brainstorm again? Ryan is a maniac.
Oh, yeah, that's... All right, this one I'm not behind. Yeah, and he gets punished again for it.
I mean, he's 3/4 the way to not hitting anyway, so maybe it was fine. I don't know. You could always ponder next turn if your opponent's literally just missing land drops and saying go.
It's a fresh top 3 either way, right? He's already taken both draw steps back from the Brainstorm.
Yeah, it's not like you have a second Delver, though, right? So, like, all you're going to do if you find a land is just land pass anyway. So, like, the chances that you lock yourself again is frustrating, and it takes your whole next turn.
Yeah.
Whereas, like, Ponder, just finding any land is, like, what you really want to do.
Yeah. I mean, with 2 Ponders in hand, I'm also just much more
now
likely.
You have to cast Ponder.
Yeah. Because at some point your opponent is going to find a land and catch back up.
Yeah. Like, you're hamstringing yourself and, like, hurting all the...
Of course Wasteland is the find. Are you shipping that, or are you just keeping it as another Stone Rain? Do you think your opponent has a basic to fetch?
That's an Underground Sea that Ryan has, right?
Yeah.
So, if his opponent goes Deathrite, he can daze and then waste him.
Yeah. And I mean, do you think that the odds are relatively high that the Bug Delver player has to fetch a duel?
I like keeping the Wasteland. I don't think he even has a basic in his deck, right? No, he doesn't have a basic in his deck.
Even if he did, I don't think
a lot of inexperienced Legacy players will just add a basic land or two to their decks. They'll copy a list online and just add a land. I don't like showing Wasteland though.
Yeah, I think you sandbag
passing.
It. Yeah.
See, because now this happens.
Yes, exactly.
Because he's 100% going to cast a spell into daze if you don't show your Wasteland.
Yeah.
And even discarding like the second or third days or like some irrelevant thing you're never going to cast, the Pyroblast, like even discarding one of those spells is like hands down better than just like tipping your hand with the Wasteland here. So I really don't like playing the Wasteland there because you definitely catalyze the game into an even more favorable position for you if you don't play it. Because like it's never Wasteland, right? Like you've just been locked this entire time. You probably just have another thing you can't cast.
Yeah.
Or another cantrip. Like, there's no way he thinks you drew Wasteland and are sandbagging it.
Yeah.
Unless he like reads you on keeping the Ponder.
Which I mean.
But you'd probably keep Force of Will too, right?
Yeah.
Like Force of Will is like marginally better than.
Or like a backup Delver in case there's
which he did have in the Ponder too. So that's a reasonable inference from the things that you know.
Yeah, and I mean he can safely tap out because this. Land doesn't make red anyway, so tapping it doesn't actually take down any of his permission. It's just instead of pondering, right?
One like thing is if you show Wasteland, he doesn't fetch, which opens you up to rip another Stifle. But you know you're not doing that, and you know that you can't both cantrip.
So this is end step, or is this main phase? This fetch, do we know?
I think end step would be very bad because he just gets Wastelanded. So
but he may have something like a Brainstorm or a Stifle. Like if he has a Stifle for the Wasteland.
Oh, but I don't think Bernie has. No, Bernie doesn't have Stifles.
Oh, okay. Because it's Stone Rain you right back.
It's 27 trophy Delver. It's like Hams and Liliana's are the flex slots. There's no Stifles or Spell Pierces.
Okay. So how do you feel about this Dark Blast?
I like it fine. I don't like doing anything end of turn. I mean, like if you're gonna cast something, it needs to be a removal spell. But I really, really loathe casting anything when he has Wasteland showing.
Yeah, so this is also just a fantastic days here, right?
This is a great play by Ryan, too, because it ensures that he can cast his cantrip next turn.
Yes.
And that a top-decked Wasteland from Bernie, which he actually drew, does actual nothing.
Yeah.
Yeah, so a great play from Ryan in that regard. Ryan's made some really nice intuitive plays, but also has made some really questionable sequences.
If you take into account the fact that he's a greed monster, then everything makes sense.
Ryan has multiple SCG open top 8s with Delver decks.
Okay.
So he's very well versed with Delver decks, but he was like a barista. Like he worked a lot in Starbucks.
Okay.
So like he couldn't play a lot of Magic.
Okay.
So yeah, I've known Ryan for years. He used to be like of that whole Pennsylvania crew. He was like the most known one.
Okay.
Before like anyone knew who Josh Taylor or Ted were.
Okay.
Ryan was the guy. He
Okay.
was a definite ringer in the local PDQs and open scene.
So it's a good trait to have.
Yeah, but you can see he's taking a while off, and just like you got to shake the rust off.
Yeah,
man,
100%. Well, I mean, 4-0, so certainly not a ton of rust left.
I think they're X1 actually.
Oh, okay.
But I talked to Ryan earlier. He was 1-1, so I think
Okay.
he's 3-1 right now.
Still super solid. It looks like 5-1-1.
I really like the way he played this game, as I didn't fundamentally agree with a few of the things he did, but it was all cohesive in that it ended up like working out well for him.
Yeah.
I think he pondered into a wasteland, and he's just gonna wasteland.
Yeah, he pondered into wasteland, and he's going to waste the waste. The old rug delver play. Oh, he's just going to... Okay. So he's just going to hope that he gets wastelanded, sandbags, and then mises the wasteland for the other land, I suppose?
Yeah, why didn't... Oh, no, because he had to play his land.
Oh, because he dazed.
He
didn't have a land.
I was
yeah.
like, wait, that doesn't
makes
make sense.
That makes
now
much
we're
more
back
sense.
in a weird,
and the
weird
delver
game,
flips.
except the delvers isn't playing.
Looks like to a ponder? Yeah.
Yeah.
And Bernie's just at 1, so
And,
most of his lands
well,
aren't even on.
Ryan has he has Trop on top of his deck,
Yeah.
too.
Well, Bernie's also just now at 1, so
Yeah.
force and fetches
So
are both
everything's,
off.
everything's off, yeah. He would need C into push, or Bayou into push. And we're going to go to game 3 in a Delver mirror.
Yeah.
I'm just like cuddling up with my blanket and my pillow.
You love Delver?
Couldn't possibly be more comfortable, yeah.
Meanwhile, I'm like, none of these cards have Miracle.
No, I mean, like, I think the things that you like about Miracles is, like, the sequencing and, like, the really interesting stuff to it.
Yeah.
And there is a ton of really interesting stuff to it.
Yeah.
I've, like, spoken to and played with some really prominent Miracles players, like, I mean, my buddy Gabe has an invitational top
Yeah.
8 with it.
Gabe's no slouch. Shoutouts.
Anurag Das.
Yeah. Another
From
great
PC,
player.
Another great Miracles player. BBD. I've talked to a bunch of Miracles
BBD.
players.
Joe.
And they all like the... Yeah, Joe just gives me an education every time we play.
Every
Just
every
brutal.
time I talk to Joe, I'm like, oh, your list is super sweet. I'll go jam it. And then I draw Basic Plains, Cavern of Souls, Counterbalance, and I'm like, great, off it again.
Yep, you don't know what you're doing. You just got to have the Lisette magic, I guess.
Yeah, I draw the Spell Snare for their 4-drop. Never lines up.
It's like, people message me and they're like, I don't know how to play Grixis Delver. And I'm like, well, this is what you need to do. And they're like, oh, well, that doesn't make any sense. And I'm like, yeah, that's why you haven't been winning. But I haven't been winning with Grixis Delver lately either. I'm almost close to jumping ship.
Yeah, I think Modern's super
Modern's
volatile
really
week to
swingy
week.
right now. It's
Yeah.
kind of weird. I think I'm going to try, next time I play Modern, I'm going to try Grixis Delver with 2 main deck Liliana the Veil.
Okay.
Or a Last Hope.
So you're splitting the difference between Delver and Control then.
I'm just like, I still like the card Delver a lot, but I like Fatal Push has like cannibalized the Modern metagame in a
Yes.
weird way, so that like big creatures became good again. But like you can't exactly afford to play Terminate because they're really bad against other Spell Snare decks.
Yeah.
So like the Mirror, and Sultai. If you play
There's also
against
just
something
like a ton of fewer islands in the format now.
and like Terminate puts weird constraints on your mana base too.
Yes.
So like, and we're back.
We're back in the booth.
Yeah, I guess so. Yeah, we're back in the booth. 2 daddies in the booth.
Yep.
2
So
daddies are the truth.
the painful truth.
Yeah, I guess so.
It's always painful when you have to painful truths for only
It's
2.
never painful when you're watching Delver Mirrors and like
No.
it's the best.
But when you painful truths for Black Divination, you only get the 2 cards because you have a Wasteland in play. Painful.
I've been like, yeah, I'm boarding in like Painful Truth and Desolate Lighthouse as a package, and people just look at me like I'm insane, and I'm like, yo, you just Painful Truth, and then you use Lighthouse to discard excess fetch lands, and it makes great sense. And the one time you have to cast it with Lighthouse as one of your 3 lands, it's just the funniest thing ever.
Yeah, you're just like, I will Divinate and Phyrexia in it. Like,
It looks like we're shuffling up for game 3 here. So,
Yeah.
do you like, changing a little bit on the draw?
so I mean,
For Ryan?
I'm less of a Delver player, but I always reevaluate my number of dazes that are in the deck post
Yeah,
board.
I would trim Daces on the draw. I kind of like the Decay.
Okay.
If it's not already in his deck.
I think it's likely already there.
And I like the Submerge too.
I really like the extra Leovold. I think that
Okay.
card really shines in the cantrip matchups. Just, I mean, I always am stone cold to it when I just have a hand that's like
Yeah,
Jace cantrip
I
cantrip.
like that for sure. I think that it's conceivable to go way down on counter spells too.
Yeah.
Also, like it's possible that Ryan wants to. Well, if we're back to the match,
Yeah.
but Ryan has to be careful about the ceiling of 3 drops in his deck
Yeah.
too, because he has True Names as well.
So burning off to what you described as the perfect start, right? A death right
Yes.
on turn 1, and it resolved, obviously. I think both players are relatively low on their force counts post board, just as like what we've seen from both decks, along with what I would assume.
I'm not about forcing.
Yeah.
Forcing on the draw is better than forcing on the play, but I'm not about forcing creatures. He has this lightning bolt. He just needs to make sure that it works out.
No, I'm just saying, but I'm also pretty low on 2-for-1ing myself in mirrors that are this attrition-y.
Yeah, exactly. That's what I mean. I'm not about forcing creatures.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I'm boarding out many forces, is what I'm saying. I'm not even leaving in more than 2, probably.
I like leaving in a couple because there's some creatures that deviate so
Yeah.
strongly from the removal suite. A great example is Gurmag Angler or True Name Nemesis, which are both in Ryan's deck, but in Bernie's deck there's Tombstalker, which is very difficult to deal with outside of